Yo, this thing is going on.
Hello, we are live. We are live for Let's Talk About Love, you guys. How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing in the room?
Doing great.
Okay, hey guys. Yay, we are live and ready to
Let's talk about it. So we're on a little early for those who are going to be joining us because we wanted to at least give you a chance to come into the room and see all our lovely faces before we officially, kick off at 8:00. So you're here for the pre-party, the pre-talk. Let's talk about love party, right? Before we get into this thing called Valentine's and all that good stuff. So we're so happy that everybody decided to join us. I thank you for each of the guests that are on this platform. You guys are amazing, and I look forward to this, this amazingly dope conversation, this dialogue about LOVE. Let's talk about what it is, what it looks like, what it requires, how we got to show up for it, all that good stuff. And each of your stories related to love. This is going to be an amazing dialogue. I'm just inspired by the diversity in the room, and I'm sure that the experiences will all be amazing and that you guys will be sharing with us tonight. Your input, your perspectives, your shared worldview on love. I'm looking forward to all of it. So we got 1 minute till we officially kick off this thing. But I'm so happy that you guys are here, and I'm happy to share this platform with all you amazing folks. So it's 8:00. We are kicking off this conversation to Let's Talk About Love. I thank you guys for all joining. Of course, we're live in Project Resiliency Movement, as well as the Project Resiliency Movement YouTube page. So for folks that are joining us on either platform, welcome to the conversation and dialogue that we're about to have tonight. It'll definitely be enriching. We have diversity in the room, lots of experiences, lots of diverse experiences related to love. So we're going to be talking about it from each of our perspectives. And of course, I'm looking forward to, the love coach herself, Miss Tiana Hercules, who's going to be leading us in this discussion and dialogue. And of course, none other than sharing co-host privileges with none other than Hillary Honeybee Brown.
Hey guys, hey.
Of Honeybee Relationship Corner. And I want to welcome you all again to the platform. Welcome our special guests who will be sharing their experiences. And of course, you just share from their heart everything that they know and have experienced about love to share that knowledge with you. And I look forward to hearing the comments. I'm all about the comments and the interaction. So let's keep it interactive. You guys, I'm looking forward to those who are on. Share your comments in the chat. Share your comments. Of course, on the platform. If you're on YouTube, share it and comment there. If you're on the PRM page, please comment there. We'll be sharing this to all our other platforms. Each of the speakers, I'm sure, will be sharing it to each of their respective platforms for Facebook as well. So I look forward to seeing it all on all their pages as well. So I'm not going to take up too much more time because we want to have the 2 hours to dig into this thing called LOV. Please comment there. We'll be sharing this to all our other platforms. Each of the speakers. So okay. I'm going to turn it over to Hillary Honeybee, of course, Honeybee's Relationship Corner, and she'll be able to kick it off with our love coach, this amazing conversation and dialogue.
Okay, hey, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for tuning in and just being here and being present. Right now we're in a season of love. It should be every day, yes, but we are in a season of love, and I know some of you just love the whole idea of celebrating and just adding all that extra and just going at it, right? But we just wanted to get together and just have a little, like a girls' night, of course, with the fellas, and because we got Ruben on. So, just have like a little powwow and just discuss what love means. What is it? How do you define it? By age, by individuality, sexuality. Look, there's so many different ways to define it. We're going to just dive right in and talk about it. So with that being said, we have Kyra Jordan joining us tonight. We have Shy Erlington, so if I said that right, join us tonight. Tashala Williams, thank you. Monique Dewberry, Barbara McLean and her wife Kelly, and also Mio Santiago and her husband Ruben Santiago. And is Liz on? Okay, and we have one more, which is, she's coming hopefully, and that's Liz Johnson and her husband Hank. So tonight our moderator is Tiana Hercules, the love coach. So Tiana, I'm gonna just have you dive right in because, like I said, we got 2 hours. Let's go. I'm ready.
Oh, all right. So, I hear that echo. I don't know what that's. Hopefully it won't last. So as Dr. Bates said, and Hillary also said, this is the season of love. But love is something that we should obviously embody and express all year round, every day of our lives. So tonight, I really look forward to this conversation. Thank you, ladies, for inviting me to moderate this amazing panel of women and men, couples and singles, and everyone at different journeys in love. So the first question that I'm going to pose to the group, and if somebody just wants to figure out what direction we want to go in terms of order, is basically, what is love? What is love to you? It's always good to start with a definition so we're all on the same page. But as Hillary said, everybody has a different definition of that. So what is love?
Oh, nice. I see the little.
So I guess I can. I'll call on who's gonna go. That way, it's a little easier.
Yeah, so you just call on everyone to answer that you want to answer. And you know what? Not all of us are gonna answer the question. So, we'll let you handle that part of it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, not everybody's on my screen, so that's the only issue. But I'll remember to make sure I call on people I can't actually see. So I'm gonna start with Tashala. What is love to you, Tashala?
All right. You gonna start with me? Damn it. For me, I believe that love is an emotion that two people share, comprised of compassion, gratitude, appreciation, gentleness, constructive criticism, and all the things that make our hearts flutter.
I love it. Thank you so much. Let's go to the happy couple, the Santiagos, who I unfortunately cannot see on my screen. But what is love to both of you?
I don't see Mio either.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I guess I can go to Barbara.
Hi, can y'all hear us?
We can hear you.
Okay, that's awesome. So me and my wife this is my wife, Kelly, for those who don't know. So we were just saying, what is love to us? And we have Corinthians, and that's what we base our love surrounding. Like we have stuff around our house that tell us what is love. And we have a beautiful cup right here. So, and these are the words that we use for our marriage when we got married 8 years ago. So it's patience, it's being kind, it's hopeful, it's understanding. It's a lot of stuff that Tashala had already stated, And it's about understanding, Yeah, that's what I feel.
When you think about love, people often have two somewhat competing views in terms of whether love just happens, when we think about it in the romantic sense, whether it just happens or whether it is a choice to love someone. So I'll be interested to hear what members of this panel think about whether love is something that just happens, it's something you can't control, or whether it is actually a choice. So Kyra, in your beautiful pink jacket, what do you think?
Love is something that just happens. You don't control what your heart wants. The heart wants what it wants at the end of the day.
Okay. Anybody else have any other perspectives on it, whether it's a choice or whether it just happens?
Can you see me now?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay. So for us, we didn't fall in love instantly. We fell in love through letters because I met him while he was incarcerated. So that love wasn't instant connection. It was more love through emotions and through writing. So when he came home, it was now a choice for us to continue loving each other because we were two strangers who fell in love through letters. It was a different type of love from the beginning. So it's been a choice throughout our relationship to continue to choose to love each other through our flaws and our brokenness and just learning how to love each other and learn how to heal each other. So it was a choice for us.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Monique, what do you think in terms of whether love is a choice or whether it just happens, or could be, I guess, a combination of the two?
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say love is both. Because love, when you first meet someone, it happens naturally. You can't force it. So then once you experience that love, you have a reminder of every single day to choose to either remain in that love or you can step outside that love. So it's a choice. It happens naturally, and then you choose to remain in that love.
I like that. What about you, Shai? What do you think?
I also think that it's a balance of both. Sometimes you can't help who you fall in love with, as stated beforehand, but other times you might see someone from afar and begin to admire them, and once you build that bond, then the love comes with that.
Love it. So going back to some of the things that Tashala was saying as she was describing what love means to her, the compassion, the gentleness, acceptance, constructive criticism. What, in your view, does love require of us? And when I think about love, I'm going to ask some questions that are specific to the romantic context. But right now, I'm speaking about love in a general sense, not necessarily someone that you're, in love with in a romantic sense. So, what does love require of us on a basic level?
Patience.
Could you repeat? Because I couldn't hear. I'm sorry. Think you said patience.
Patience.
Yes, for sure. And just throw out words like when you think about what it requires of you. Just throw out the terms.
Compromising.
For sure.
Loving flaws.
I'm going to say sacrifice.
Yeah.
We say forgiveness.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll say love is loving flaws and all.
Yeah. Definitely.
Love also requires action.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Yep.
Gonna talk a little bit about that. Yes. There's some folks in the chat. They gave some honesty. I saw compassion and communication from the chat. Definitely communication. Everything requires communication. Thank you, Erica. That is for sure. So obviously right now we are in probably some of the most challenging times that no judgment, definitely. One of the most challenging times that many of us have ever lived in. So I'd be interested to hear folks talk about how they were challenged in love, whether in their current relationship, whether the relationship to even love themselves. We're going to talk a little bit about self-love later, and how has love gotten you through a challenging time, either this one or something else that you've experienced in your life. And I'm going to start with Barbara and Kelly, who I don't know why they're not on my screen right now. Hopefully they're still there. Oh, okay. They are.
Can you guys hear us?
Yes. Did you hear the question?
I did not.
Okay. So I asked, how has love gotten you through a challenging time, either reflecting on this time that we're in with Corona and the racial discord that we have and the political mess that we just kind of are coming under, or any other challenging time that maybe you have experienced? How has love gotten you through that?
Yeah, so currently we're dealing with health issues within our marriage, and it's been in our marriage for a little while, and how we are dealing with it is practicing some patience, practicing some understanding, and which on any given day it's not easy, so our foundation other than love is friendship within our marriage, and we base a lot of stuff, like we stand a lot on that there. Like if you were my friend, this is what I would be doing. So we we heavily rely on the God of our understanding. We rely on prayer to get us through these difficult, sometimes and trying times when you're dealing with health in your marriage. And we've been dealing with it. We've been married for 8 years, but we've been together for 17 years. And we've been dealing with health issues since we've been married. Immediately after we got married, Kelly had to have open heart surgery. So we've been through the struggle. And I think our greatest asset is that our foundation of friendship, our foundation of mutual respect for one another. And we're friends. We're friends, and we know how to separate sometime when we have to come together and tell one another something. Listen, I'm not coming to you as your spouse or your wife. I'm coming to you as a friend. So we have a lot of truth. We have to be real with one another and say the exact nature of what's happening. So our foundation, it's firm, that what we stand on, but God is the ultimate, and that's prayer is like our number one thing as well, Yes.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. That's definitely inspiring, and I appreciate your transparency in that. Now, I know for the Santiagos, following some of your social media, I know that you guys have had some challenges in your relationship and both in your respective lives. I do know, knew Ruben's late son, so have dealt with, tragedy, deaths, things that, that can really rock and shatter a marriage. So how has love gotten you through some of those most difficult and, devastating times?
So it's been very challenging. There are times where we've gotten to the point where we're not friends sometimes, because we were at the point where resentment and anger came into the marriage. I openly speak to people about my affair. After my husband's son passed away, he went into a very dark place, and he somehow brought me with him because I was neglected, and there was just a lot of disconnection in the marriage. So with disconnection in space, I found myself very vulnerable and found myself in the arms of another man. And I ended up having an affair for 1.5 years, and my husband found out. So that took a lot of forgiveness from him, and also accountability from him, taking, accountability for the fact that, I was severely neglected, and there was just a lot of things we both weren't doing in the marriage. So at the end of the day, we've been through so much that we look at each other sometimes, and we just have to ask each other, like, we didn't go through all this for nothing. There's a reason why we're still here. There's times when we argue like cats and dogs, and I just want to take off and never come back. Him too. But at the end of the day, when we truly look at each other without each other, it just is a stinging feeling of the heart. So we decide to stay, and we're like Barbara's prayer, and now we're both involved in church and trying to get together in a spiritual walk. That's something that never in the beginning of the marriage. We learned how to walk together in the spiritual walk. So it's been just a process of us growing in the marriage. We've been married for 7 years. We've been together for 12. So we're still new into this, and we're still learning each other, and there's still a lot of healing to happen. So that's what I have to say. Anything to say?
The question was how we're going to love each other through this crisis.
Yeah, like how has love gotten you through some of the most challenging times that you guys have experienced?
A lot of patience, a lot of forgiveness, a lot of accountability. When you argue a lot, you always point the fingers. A lot of times I had to look in the mirror and I had to take accountability for my actions, how I was treating my wife, how I was speaking to my wife. So like I said, every day you're learning. You know, we're learning something new, we're learning how to deal with each other. Now that we're in this pandemic, we're in the house a lot, you know, we're around each other a lot. That's sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. Because I'm more like laid back. I watch TV and she's running around like a bee. All you want to do is sit down, and I'm like, hey, I'm just relaxing. There's nothing else. I can't really go out and save the world right now. We're in the pandemic, you know. And running organizations, so you know, we barely really see each other as much as we should. So we're trying to that. You know, we're taking care of my father-in-law. So you know, it's just balance. You know, we're just trying to keep balance right now and keep love in the same breath.
Well, I appreciate you guys sharing that. I'm sure it gives couples who may be watching hope, who are going through some very trying and challenging times, because sometimes when you're in that dark space, that's all you can see and you can't see the light. And love allows you to shine light on the darkness and allows you to say, hey, there is something much brighter and better once we get over this hump if we're willing to do the work. And it sounds like you both were committed to doing the work and are staying committed to doing it. So thank you again for sharing that. Let's go to some of our single ladies. Now, I know around this time, and I don't want to assume who is single just because you're not here with a partner. So I'm not calling on anyone specifically, but if you are single, I am single. So I know this time a year can be a little tough in terms of dealing with all of the fanfare around celebrating coupledom and marriages and love. But I think it's also very important to remember that the first love starts with yourself. So I would love to hear for some of our women, ladies who may be single here, talking a little bit about how your love journey with self is helping you to become more able to embrace love. Whoever wants to start, whoever is single, because again, I don't want to assume.
I can go. Oh, okay. So during this time, not only am I focusing on self-love, I'm focusing heavy on like platonic love between my friends. You know, we're in a pandemic. I'm a college student. I'm used to going to school, seeing all my friends, catching up in the caf. But ever since COVID hit, it's a thing of the past now. Everything is virtual. So, you know, FaceTiming, checking up on them, taking them out when they're crying, cooking them a meal, you know, just being there for them in any way I can, and then making sure that they reciprocate that to me in my time of need, because I'm a giver, but sometimes, you know, the giver gets tired and we need, you know, our circle of love. And I've been big on self-care recently, because it's like, if I can't love myself, how can I love other people? It's not as genuine as I want it to be. And, you know, through my self-care journey, you know, I'm just loving on myself. I'm just doing things what I like. I'm asking myself, what does Cheyenne like? What does Cheyenne need? And I find that, you know, I'm more kind, I'm more patient with people, I'm more loving, I'm more radiant, and I'm just really grateful.
Amen.
That is beautiful, definitely. And in fact that you are still relatively young in college and learning how to do that, oh my goodness, you're going to be a force to be reckoned with, because a lot of women, myself included, are just now learning how to respond to your own needs in their 30s. And, you know, as I'm approaching 40 in a few years, it's like, geez, I wish I knew how to do this much, much earlier, but it's obviously never too late. But I definitely commend you for starting that process at an early age, because it's only going to serve you well in your life. You're going to be someone who knows what you want and demand and command the things that you want to gravitate towards you, and always taking care of yourself first before you can go out and save the world, as Ruben said. So thank you for sharing that. Anybody else in their singledom right now on a self-love kind of journey and want to share what that looks like? in these times?
I'll go next. So like Shai said, a lot of it is my peers, a lot of friends have been helping me in that journey. And when the pandemic had happened, I came back home. I wasn't really bonding with a lot of my CT friends, but I've made friends all across the US. I have a group of girls who honestly build me up. We always tell each other and check on each other, making sure we feel loved. If one of us is having a bad day, we're always checking on each other. Like she said, FaceTiming, we do Zoom movie nights, and we talk almost every other day. And then when it comes to self, I've actually been using social media and boosting other people's self-esteem in order to help myself and see like I love me. If you can love you and I can love me, it just makes me feel a little bit better.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Anybody else single up here who wants to talk? Because I don't want to assume. All right. So because just the three of us lonely ladies. All right. So I read a transformative piece of literature not too long ago, all about love, written by Bell Hooks. It is honestly like one of the best books on love that I probably have read in a long time. So I just want to put a little plug in there for everybody on here who may be watching or also on this panel to definitely review it. So I'm going to reflect on a quote in the book and ask for your perspective on it. So in one part of the book, the author writes about love: it is easier to articulate the pain of love's absence than to describe its presence and meaning in our lives. So one, I want you to reflect on that and whether you agree with it, and then whether you agree or disagree, maybe explain a little bit about why. And then the second part of the question is, how do you describe the presence and meaning of love in your life? I'll read the quote again. It's easier to articulate the pain of love's absence than to describe its presence and meaning in our lives. So I'm going to start with our resident
poet. Yeah, so I can dig that. I can dig it, because a lot of times when love is absent, the pain that you feel might lead to anger. It's easy to describe anger. The pain that you feel, it's easy to put words to what you don't have. But I think the magnitude of the love that we feel is definitely something that we're able to describe. I know that when I feel loved, it is warm, it is safe, it is protective, it is gracious, it is appreciation, it is gratitude, it is bright colors, it is the most beautiful sounds you could think of, it is the smell of a baby's neck. It is all of those things. Yes. Because you got to get up close and they got all the little baby oil and the powder on them. They smell so good. So it's just, and it fills your heart up. So yes, it can touch all of those senses. It can touch your sense of smell. You can see it. You can hear it. You can feel it on the ends of your fingertips. You can feel it in a hug. That was something I was going to say earlier. One thing that my husband and I learned when we went to marriage counseling at our church in Georgia, and they taught us a strife break. So if you are in the middle of an argument and the argument is getting intense, whoever says it, they can call strife break, and you have to stop and hug each other. Don't say anything, just hold each other. And it would stop everything. And there's a very healing presence in a hug. And we start to realize, all right, I'm tripping. Maybe I'm just hungry. But you hurt my feelings when you said that. And it gives us an opportunity to communicate what really bothered us, and not so much react out of anger because someone is not listening while we're not listening because everybody's talking. But yeah, love is dope.
I love that, T'Challa. Thank you so much. You said so many things. That feedback again. Does anybody else hear that?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe it's best when we're not speaking to have our mics on mute, because I don't want, I don't know what's causing that feedback. But I would love to, if somebody else would like to reflect on that. Essentially, why is it simpler or easier to describe, the loss of love or the absence thereof versus talking about the beauty and the meaning of love and how it is present in our lives?
Yeah, I can speak on that. So when it comes down to going through trauma, you have those individuals that it's difficult for them to speak on it. But for the average, you can find every word to describe your disappointment, your anger, your hurt. You can talk about it forever. But sometimes when you experience that inevitable level of love, sometimes you can't describe it. Sometimes there's no words that you can even put to it. So, and then sometimes when you go through so much hurt, you can't appreciate love. So when you do experience it, so there's nothing really to say. So, because you're still so focused on getting over the hurt and getting over that hurdle for you to be able to accept the love. And because of that, it's that challenge and that give and take. So with that, it's also a mental, so it's like you if you can't formulate the words to describe the love that's in front of you, the reason why is because you haven't acknowledged it, you haven't accepted it, because you're still focused on the hurt. So it's about healing and getting over that disappointment. So I think that's a lot of the reasons why we're able to describe in so many words, sometimes a whole encyclopedia, about the hurt and the pain that we went through. But God damn it, when it comes down to love, we can't even formulate a sentence, because sometimes it's either that beautiful that you just can't describe it, or it's because you haven't accepted it. You don't know anything other than hurt.
Yeah. That's deep. Thank you.
That is deep.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that particular aspect of love? All right, I'm going to turn to another question. Give me 1 second.
So while you're doing that, I guess I'll talk a little bit too. So I think because sometimes there's so much. Well, for me, love is light. It's omitting light to others. It's accepting light, others' light. So it's transactional, and I think sometimes when the darkness, maybe you thought it was light, and then it masked itself as light, but then it was really darkness behind the mask. It can mess you up a little bit, because then you're thinking you're accepting light and love, but then it becomes painful because the light that you thought you were accepting, really darkness seeped in. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people that have experienced that, where you let love in, right? You were open to love, right? You let the light in because you were expecting that the light was going to be reciprocal, and then the light turns into darkness, and then what do you do? Then the adjectives become plenty because you thought you were accepting one thing and then you got the other. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
no, you did, because what I'm hearing you say is essentially you distrust love because you thought what was love, you learned that it wasn't. And so that's unfortunately why love does get a bad reputation, and why people often will want to avoid it at all costs. Like, it's easier to stay very surface because you don't want to get hurt. And so absolutely. I often say that fear and love cannot coexist. I often say, like, those two things, love is very courageous. Love is the absence of being afraid. And so it's hard if you have been disillusioned in love, or what you thought was love turns out not to be, it can make you distrustful, and it can make you blind to when love is actually, you know, right in front of you. So I definitely
right, and it makes you feel the opposite of what Tashala said, which is safe.
Right.
Yeah, love is definitely safety.
Yes.
I totally agree with that. You know, it's the ability to feel safe with whom you're with. No matter, you know, safe to be you.
Yep.
You know, the real you, not the mask you.
Right. Your authentic self. Yeah, for sure. So love lessons, you know, love teaches us many things. What has love taught you about yourself, about your partner, about the world around you, and your place in it? I'll start with Shy, because we haven't heard from you for a little bit, and then I'll go down to Barbara and Kelly.
Generally speaking, it taught me, love taught me to not, depending on the situation, not overextend myself, because, you know, there are some amazing people in this world. There's wonderful people in this world. However, there's a lot of users, and I've been used a lot. So, you know, as I said before, I'm a giver, and sometimes, you know, love is blinding. I've been blinded a bunch of times. So, and like, you know, people see through that. Sometimes I'm easily submissive. So I just end up getting used a lot and hurt. And then they're looking at me, the person or whoever, they're like, how could you not see this coming? Like, you know what it was from the beginning. I'm like, no, I didn't. I thought you were XYZ, but apparently not. So.
Barbara and Kelly, what lessons has love taught you?
I know for myself, love has taught me that to compromise. You know, I grew up as the only girl, let's just put it that way. And in my marriage to a woman, like, I got to share some things. And I didn't know about sharing with others like that, you know. And in my marriage, or in our relationship, our love has taught me that compromise is love. Like, and I'm learning more how to do it more gently than to struggle, you know, because. And I just say it because, well, you know what? Everything was mine. I don't know how to share stuff with people because everything was mine. But in my marriage, I had to learn how to share and how to compromise, you know, rather it's my time, rather it's my energy, you know, whatever it is, I had to learn how to compromise. You know, so my wife said, she was saying something. Go ahead.
So I was thinking, love to me, when I found love, love found me, was that this person stood up for me and was there for me. And I never had that before. I usually run, you know, I'm a runner. I would run. But this person, my wife, who eventually became my wife, you know, there was this incident and she like stayed, and it just took me to a place I had never, ever been in my life. And I was like, oh my God, no one's ever done this before for me. And I remember my grandmother's, I told my grandmother, he doesn't love me. She said, he loves you, but he doesn't love you the way you want to be loved. And my wife loves me the way I want to be loved. Now, it ain't perfect. Hell no. We got our thing, you know, we got our thing, but it's the best to me, you know, and I love the love, and I try to give it back the best I know how to. So that's my meaning of love.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. So the Santiagos, what lessons have you learned from love? What has love taught you?
Love taught me to released a lot of the past pains that I had. You know, I came from a lot of pain before I met my husband, and a lot of trust issues, and I was already broken as a woman myself. So love taught me to let go of my guards and allow him to allow him in. Love also taught me to love him unconditionally. I always taught him. I've always told him that I've always seen something in him that he didn't see in himself, and I always seen the potential in him. And he always just said that, you know, I'm a felon. No one's gonna hire me, and you know, nobody's gonna do this. I'm just a convicted felon. I used to tell him, you know, that's just the label that this world gave you. But what God has for you, no, this world just can't take away from you. So, love for me in my marriage, I had to step away from myself and allow God to heal my husband. I'm a control freak. I was in control. I was gonna control how I was gonna heal him. I was in control of how he was gonna heal. I was in control of how much time you have to heal. Like, because I've been through so much pain, my healing, I had to heal quick. So I was just very adamant about, okay, this happened, life goes on. You know, this happened, life goes on. And I had to let go of that control and realize that this was a situation that I had no control over. And I had to, love showed me to let go of this control issue that I had for my life and for my relationship, and allow God just to heal him and grow him and transform him and make him into the man that God wanted him to be for him. I've always tried to turn him into the man that I wanted to be for me, because I've always been looking for that man, that perfect man in my dreams, who does this, who does that, who knows how to do this, who knows how to do that. And I realized that it's just not like that in the world. It's not like that in reality. And I had to love him enough to step aside and let God heal him and deal with him and do whatever he had to do. And also that gave me more time to learn how to love myself. You know, I'm gonna be 49 in November, and I've never loved myself as much as I love myself now at 49 years old. I've learned how to love myself and stop trying to always try to nurture and love other people more than I love myself. And that's what love taught me in this relationship. I talk a lot. I'm the talker. Like.
So mine is a compromise. Like I said, we got a very unique relationship. You know, she was very controlling, and everything has to be like this. And you know, she wanted me to be the president tomorrow, and I'm like, you met me. I met my wife in a prison cell. Like, I met my wife from a federal cell. We never seen each other, nothing. Like, literally, I went from prison to her house. You know, just God worked everything out in a victorious way. But she spoke a lot of life into me when I didn't believe in myself. I have a very problem with trusting people. So is she. So it was always a building up a trust thing. And but she put a backbone in me that I didn't know I had. She put like 2 backbones in me. You know, babe, you could do this, you could do that. And the times that I really feel I couldn't do it, and I just put God first, and I sat back, and you know, I have my own organization. I'm getting people out of jail now. I'm bonding people out of jail, helping people in court. I'm feeding my community. So I'm doing a lot of things that I never thought I could do. But it was the things that my wife she instilled in me. You know, and like you said, she had to step back and love herself. It was a point we both didn't love ourselves. After I lost my son, I didn't even want to be here. You know, like, we were just roommates. We wasn't sleeping in the same bed. I was gone. I was gone. And I didn't love myself. And then it came to the point that she didn't love herself after I found out about the affair. So, you know, we put God first in a lot of things. You know, a lot of times we want to give up, and there's a lot of prayer involved. you know, because the devil's here to seek and destroy and kill. And so that's what, but I had to compromise a lot. I had to sit back, like, you can't control, you know, I was talking to her crazy. She's like, babe, you know what? I don't like the way you talked to me yesterday. And I had to really think, and like, was I talking crazy to her? Like,
You sure was.
and you know, so
Malcolm.
I had to really sit and, like I said, just take accountability. Like, you know, we shouldn't be talking to you like that. You know, but like I said, we got very strong souls. We're very strong-minded people, so we clash a lot. You know, not saying we're right all the time, but sometimes we just don't know how to back down from arguments and stuff like that. But, you know, like I said, every day is a learning process. Yeah, and that's it.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to read some of the comments from the chat. Jennifer says, I learned how to love myself unconditionally after a bad breakup, and things changed dramatically after that. At the same time, I've been running away from any commitment. So it sounds like, you know, she's in that space that we were talking a little bit about earlier, where, you know, if you've been disappointed in love, you kind of tend to resist it when it comes along. Felicia says, I learned that love comes in many forms. What it's not is abuse in any shape or form. I definitely agree with that. Love is never something that hurts you. And so I definitely agree with that, Felicia. So thank you for those in the chat for your comments and for participating with us. Maxine says, it's never too late to love yourself. Never, never too late to love yourself, for sure. As long as you're here, you got to definitely love on you. That's before you can really love anybody else. And I think Hillary Honeybee had a post up a few weeks back talking about, you know, or it was actually one of her podcast episodes where she was discussing whether or not we use relationships as, you know, distractions from, you know, looking at ourselves and working on ourselves. And I can definitely say that at one point that was me, like, you know, trying to give so much of myself to everyone else and not really, so that I wouldn't have to focus on myself. And then I could use that as an excuse to why I'm not focusing on myself. So it's like this horrible cycle. And so I'd be interested to hear what members of the panel think about, you know, using proxies, I guess, for love. You know, some people use sex as a proxy for love. Some people turn to, you know, some type of self-destructive or self-abusing behaviors, alcohol, drugs, things of that nature. I would love to hear folks' opinions on proxies for love. And I guess I try now in my more maturity to not label things as bad or good or right or wrong, right? But to recognize that at a certain time, some things do serve a purpose. You know, sometimes you are in that space where you're not able to love in a healthy way. And so you need to get over that circumstance or that situation and get through it, but don't get it confused that this, you know, addiction or this behavior is love, because it's not. Because I think that's, again, how we can get very confused about what love really is, but not to, you know, label or judge when people are in that space, because I think we've all probably have been there. But I would love to hear folks, you know, opinions about folks using either relationship or substances or sex or other things as a proxy for love, if you've ever been in that situation or in that circumstance, and how you were able to overcome it and get through it. Monique?
Yeah, I was just about to take myself off mute because it's a delay. Like, it takes a while to come off mute. But yeah. So for my so for me, I'm a Scorpio. Tiana, we Scorpios, girl. So, like, I only speak for myself, but for me, I love sex. I'm very sexual. So with that, I have learned over a period of time that sex does not equate to love. And I cannot use sex to make a man fall in love with me, period. That would be in the end, I will always hit a dead end road. And that is what I would do. I would be like, why this man doesn't like me? I know I gave him the best head ever. And I know that I'm gonna be clean. Because I can get there. But you know what I mean? Like, I know my game is on point. So why does this man not love me? You know, but my thing is that like I said, it took a while for me to learn that just because I put it on him like none other, that does not mean that he's going to stay. That does not mean that he's going to love me, because at the end of the day, what is it, like 5 to 6 women to 1 man? So he's gonna go and, you know, do what he wants with the next one that can do it just as better. So I just learned that, you know, I just need to learn to, for one, love myself first, and then 2, for me to get to know that individual first before becoming sexually active. And then when that moment happens, oh my goodness. But but that's what I use. I use sex as that gateway to love, and it just did not work out.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that. So I appreciate your honesty and sharing that as a fellow Scorpio. Yeah, I definitely can relate. Anybody else want to talk about proxies for love? How those have showed up in your life, how you were able to discern that? Got some feedback.
Yeah. For me, you have feedback? Can you hear me? Am I speaking? Okay.
I think
so I was a little bit opposite of Monique. In my youth, I knew what love was. I just didn't believe anybody was looking for it. But I liked sex. So I had all the sex I wanted to have. And it was crazy because people would connect, but I wasn't connected. I had the sex and I was good. And I wouldn't allow myself to connect because I didn't even want to deal with the issues that might come from it. So my thing was, you don't really want that. Let's just have this good ass sex and keep pushing. No, don't play. You don't really want that. And in a way, it was almost like my little defense mechanism to avoid taking the risk of falling in love, because I didn't believe they really wanted anything other than sex, and all I wanted was sex, and I was good with that. So fellas, when sisters be like, is that all you want? Because that's probably all I want. Freaking don't call me. Don't be looking for me to have dinner. Don't be writing me no letters. Don't be posting. I ain't put you at my relationship status. But I learned that if I really wanted depth in my relationship, I would have to take the risk and see where it goes. And so after that, I allowed myself to take the risk and see where it goes.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I don't know why I'm getting such feedback, so I apologize, folks. But oh, it went away. Great. Anybody else want to talk about that topic of love proxies, whether it be sex or something else that you are using or may have used as a substitute for love?
I would like to touch on both what T'Challa and Monique both said. I experienced both of those situations where you feel like, yes, today's day and age, I'm fully convinced with my generation, sex equates to love. I have not met any female or male that doesn't automatically hear sex and think eventually that will lead towards love, which that's just my personal experiences. But also I've had where T'Challa said, you like sex. I love sex. I will literally tell myself daily after being with a guy, do not fall for him. Do not fall for him. Do not fall for him. Because as a female, I have emotions. So eventually I will fall. So it's hand in hand. I tend to equate sex to love, like I feel most of my generation does.
That's interesting. Because I would not assume that at all. So I appreciate you sharing that. There's actually an excerpt I'm going to share about the younger generation that Bell Hooks writes about, and I would love to hear your perspective. But I appreciate you shining a light on that, because that is definitely not something I would ever assume about your age group. So thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to?
I'm not gonna lie, just to touch on what Kyra said. In my opinion, I find that her generation, that 20 something, they're very more laxed with the way they interact with each other and what their definition of love is. So that's kind of surprising to hear that they do equate sex and love in the same sentence. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to you, Tiana.
No, thank you. I think that's great. All right. So social media, oh gosh, it's like we love it and we hate it at the same time, right? We have to be on it even more so right now. Well, we don't have to, but we're using it more so right now to connect with one another, to promote businesses, to promote events. Obviously, we're all on social media right now, being able to connect from wherever we are. But certainly, I think social media can sometimes exist in a vacuum and make you think that this is the perspective of more people than those 5 that are posting these negative things. So I would love to hear what impact, if any, do you believe social media has on our ability to love and our perspectives and views on love?
So I'll speak on that. To be honest with you, it's hard for me to go on social media because I hate social media, to be honest with you. I use social media because of my business and to promote myself and to stay connected with so many women and, and to support women and, share my achievements and my book and everything like that. But I to be honest with you, the social media is the devil to me. It's a lot of illusions and lies, a lot of people behind their masks, making their lives look like it's what it is and it's not. It's a lot of I'm a transparent person, and I don't believe with social media there's not a lot of transparency. There's a lot of you showing what people want to see, and they don't see the truth. And that's what bothers me with social media. And that's why I'm very careful when I maneuver around social media, who I accept as a friend. Me being a woman and women's empowerment. I really don't accept men that much on my page unless they're in business or I've already introduced myself to them or we've interacted at some point, because that's where I feel the enemy steps in. Like, for instance, the affair that I had happened through social media. I would have never been in contact with this man if he didn't slip into someone's DM and they slipped into mine and arranged, we arranged to see each other like that. And social media doesn't, and also, my affair didn't start physically right away. I had an emotional affair first. We were FaceTiming each other every day. I was FaceTiming him in the bathroom while my husband was sitting right here on the recliner. It was an emotional affair. I believe in that too. And social media is very it's a very you have to be careful. You just have to be careful, especially in relationships, because there's a lot of things going on with social media that can really destroy a marriage and a relationship, even a person, if they're not careful. And if they're vulnerable or they're weak, social media and all its lies and illusions will have someone believing something, and it's a trap sometimes. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, anybody else want to share? I have, for myself, mixed feelings on social media, because on the one hand I do feel like it can be like beneficial, like it can connect you to people from everywhere, right? Like you might meet someone who you would never be able to come into contact and in a positive way, but on the same time you might meet someone in a negative way that you would never be able to come into contact. But it does allow people to hide, and it does allow people to pretend and put up a lot of facade. And I think for when someone is in an emotionally vulnerable space, social media can be very destructive. And with respect to this topic, with love, unfortunately, as much as I'm a love advocate, I get a lot of anti-love like stuff that I see on my page from, people in my whatever that I'm connected through social media. And I'm just like, what is up with this? Like every time I put up a positive quote about love, here comes a negative one to like snuff it out. And so sometimes I think that it can really send this message that love is not something that we should aspire to. And so that's why I'm even more, honored to be part of this platform, because we are talking about the beauty of love. We are talking about the transformative power of love, and the fact that without it, we really are nothing. Like if you strip us down to, away from all the glitz and glamour, the possessions, the material things, every person wants to feel wanted, validated, safe, connected to other people. Everybody wants love. It's the one thing we truly do share in common, and it is the one thing that I do believe can conquer the world and can actually eradicate a lot of the problems that we see in our society. I think love can do that. And if social media were used as a trumpet for love instead of like love's like archangel, I think a lot of good could be had on social media, but we're not there yet. But I'd love to hear other perspectives about social media and how it impacts, or if it does, maybe it doesn't have any impact on your perceptions of love.
I want to say it's like there's the pros and cons to it. It could help, a lot of people, if you're putting up inspirational stuff, or people seeing that, you're in a good marriage, or, that people that's given up on love, and they're showing that, especially if they know your story, that gives them hope at the end of the day. But what I've learned in my marriage since I've been with my wife is to never put whatever you're going through, don't put it on social media. When we went through whatever we went through, I never, ever talked about my wife, never told anybody about that situation. Like literally the next day after I found out, I was still posting pictures of us happy, holding hands. Nobody knew what we were going through, because that's when other people's opinions, or every opinion is not a good opinion. People that even haven't even been married, you put up, women ain't X, or I hate love, anything. They'll be ready to jump on it because they're like, wow, I thought Mia and Ruben was good. I thought they had this beautiful marriage. But then your inbox is blowing up. Oh, I knew it wasn't work. I knew y'all wasn't happy. Then the devil just jumps in. A woman that's never been married can get at my wife. Oh yeah, you don't need him. Come over here to the club with me, and I introduce you to a real man. And that's when the enemy steps in. So that's just another big thing. It's never everybody that posts. I got 3 couples on my Facebook every other week, and they're breaking up. Every week, and then they posted, "Oh, my boo for life." But then you was just talking. You had all this stuff outside on the porch, and he ain't this, and screenshots, and it's just terrible. I that part of the social media I hate. But like I said, but there's a pros and cons to it. Spiritual stuff. Just showing that love is real. Some people are gonna like it, some people ain't gonna like it. So.
But you also have to be careful in a relationship with social media too. You got to watch what you do, how you carry yourself as a married person, who you entertain on social media, how you entertain that, especially from the opposite sex. Because they might see that friendliness as something else. And then now you opened up the door of opportunity for something to happen. Yeah. So you have to be real careful too with social media, especially in a relationship.
Yeah,
I think it's all in how it's used. So I think some people see social media as their purging space. They see it as their diary. They see it as their personal journal, and that's when it becomes dangerous, because now you're letting people in a way that makes you super vulnerable, and now they have information. You know what I mean? Like. That who knows what people want to do with that information when they get it, so I think it's how it's used. It's a platform, and it was meant to connect people, to network, to elevate, to grow businesses, to make connections. So I think it's all in how you use it, but I think a lot of people misuse it in a sense in terms of like making it their personal stage to share their, you know, diaries and journal entries and purging spaces, you know, but that's not what it was made for.
Yeah. And can I just chime in real quick? You know, I get the whole social media thing because that's a battle in my house as well. But, you know, I like to let my husband know I'm not on here just lollygagging. I know as much as it might look like it, I really am not just on here like, you know, just because, like, I'm really making a difference. At least in my opinion, I am. I think we have to learn, understand that we have to be responsible for self. Whatever it is that you think you're running from, it's out there. But at the end of the day, you have a choice on how it is that you choose to respond and react, the actions that you choose to take. You know, Mio, I heard what you said, but in my mind, that because you were emotional, because you were having an emotional, you know, like a lack of emotional love there, that could have came from anywhere. It just so happens that this person was like, boom, literally in your face. And then yet and still, you still had to travel to see this person. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like they were like right in your space, you know, same town, same state. You made the extra effort. So I guess what I'm trying to say altogether is you have to be responsible for yourself. Social media is what it is. It's a conglomerate that's huge, and it's given us access to each other like right at our fingertips. It's how we choose to use it. So, you know, again, I could tell you that this is a battle in my house, and it's because, oh, you know, like you need to get off. So, you know, for me, I've been doing my due diligence on staying off of social media in my relationship on a Sunday and then hopping off by 10 o'clock at night. So that's where I'm compromising, because I do have stuff that I am doing on here. You know, it's not just me just, you know, shooting a post about just X, Y, and Z. Like, I really am talking to people, making a difference. So, yeah, you know, I'm not going to stop that, because that's part of what it is that I do. I don't ask anyone not to do what they're doing. So, you know.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with what has been said, that it can be destructive, but at the same time, it's a choice. You know, it's a choice in what you want to view. I mean, that's the great thing about it. There are filters that you can put on. You can block people. You can delete people. I've deleted a bunch of people. So, you know, it allows you to kind of shape your own reality in a sense. But I do think that sometimes the negative aspects of like relationships and love, and it's just like anything else, like you hardly see the positive reviews like about a restaurant or you know, a product. You always see the negative review. Like, that is what is so prevalent. And unfortunately, just like when we started, people are much easier to articulate the disappointment in love and the negative aspects of love versus the positive. But the I think it begs the question, was that even love in the first place? You know, and so I think for me, social media has shown me that a lot of people don't know what love is. And so instead of me saying, oh, all this negative stuff about love, I'm like, they're not even talking about love. You know, they're talking about something very different than what love actually is. And that's unfortunate. And that's why
talking about pain, Tiana. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah. Right. They're talking about pain. They're talking about trauma, distrust, deceit, all of those things that are basically the antithesis of love. And so I had to kind of shift my own terminology to be able to be confronted with these messages and not get so discouraged about, you know, what I'm trying to do in the space of love. Like, that's just simply not love. And it's unfortunate. And that's why it's even more important for us to talk about it and really to try to shine a light on what love actually is. And so I kind of want to segue into a topic that has been discussed a lot, I think, when we talk about relationships and even even actually not just in a romantic sense, but I think Shy, before she left, she was talking about platonic relationships and also like the parent-child relationships and how love shows up there. And so I'm pretty sure that everybody here is familiar with the 5 love languages. It's something that is very popular. It's a great read, a quick read. The love languages test is an awesome thing. And so I would love to hear folks maybe reflect on what their love language is, how that process of finding it was, and how you were able to educate, if you are in a relationship, your partner about your love languages, because I'm actually learning now to love my children in their love languages. And I have 3 kids, and they're all very different in what their love languages are. And so it's very interesting, because sometimes I think we think about love very much from the perspective of like very much from an ego perspective, but love is really not about us. It's really about who we are giving and sharing that love to. And so that's why the love languages is so important. So yeah, I guess I'll start with Barbara and Kelly to maybe talk a little bit about that and how that shows up in your marriage.
What our love language?
Yeah, so whether or not you've utilized the test, if you know your love language, how you were able to figure it out, what it is, and how you were able to educate your partner on what that is.
Yeah, so I know for myself, having a clearer understanding of who I am, and getting to know myself in healthy ways, then I was able to communicate to her what type of like my needs or what I'm looking for. And I didn't come into the relationship, I mean, used for lack of a better word, brimming with all of that type of stuff. I had to learn it as I did more self-care and learn about myself. Then I was able to communicate it to her. But that happened way well into our relationship. It didn't come like overnight, and this is just a self-disclosure for myself. I don't really have to, but I'm a recovering addict, and they take you, I've been through some steps that allowed me to strip down to uncover some stuff about myself and learn and relearn some things about who I am, because of things that happened to me as a child, as a young adult. My language was not clear. And the only way that it did become clear is when I started really investing in Barbara, taking care of Barbara, learning Barbara. And once I started doing some work on me, and this, I came into recovery at 43, I'm 60 now, and my love language now in this chapter is changing. It's changing now. It's, when we got together, I was 43 years old. Now this is 17 years later with some work, with some inside work that has been done on myself. I think now my love language is a much clearer. I can articulate, I could say to her, nope, that's not what I want to do. Or yes, I do. It's clearer now. In the beginning, it was all mushy because I was all in love and and I was sending out more wrong signals, sending out more signals that wasn't really who I was. I wasn't transparent in the beginning. I was so blind. I was so happy to find love, like finally, like, man, I really found a woman who loves me for me, that I was blinded by a lot of stuff, but that's because my blinders were on. I wasn't being transparent, and now I'm able to communicate, which is one of our sometimes it's a struggle with Kelly and I, because sometimes we are so much alike that our love language gets crossed, and we're saying the same thing. I can hear it now. We're saying the same doggone thing, just in different verses. and we have to and sometimes both of us, we can't see that, but somebody has to be aware and a little bit more clear. So sometimes I have to step back from something and be able to say, babe, we're saying the same thing, so, and for myself, I had to work on a lot of stuff. I had to work on myself first in order to communicate to her what I needed, because in my past relationships, I never thought I was worthy enough to tell somebody what I needed. My self-worth was at the bottom of my shoe, and as I grew up, as I aged, as I matured, as I learned about what Barbara really wanted out of a relationship, that's the only way I was able to communicate that.
Well, you touched on something that was going to be my next question on feelings of unworthiness and how we get out of that. So I appreciate you touching upon that, Barbara.
Thank
Kelly,
you.
did you want to add to that?
I was thinking when the question came, like I sort of knew what I wasn't going to tolerate anymore. I just was not going to do this anymore. The kids were grown and I wasn't taking no stuff no more. But she made it easy that I didn't have to take the stuff anymore. I also came to Connecticut for recovery. And I really felt grown up, and I was like, nobody's going to take advantage of me anymore. But she wasn't taking advantage of me. And I was able to say exactly what I needed to say, and I'm grateful right now. I'm grateful for all the experiences I had because she was able, I always let her know, you got the real me. You got the real me, because I was in relationships where I was controlled. And I didn't know how not to be controlled. I didn't know, and now I feel like she doesn't want to control me. She just wants me to be who I am. And that's when I told you, it's not perfect and we'll be fussing and but at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm okay. I'm okay with you. I'm your friend. We still friends, and it's nice. It's not perfect, but it's nice. And I'm okay. So I'm really enjoying this. I'm really like, wow. This is cool.
So not to put you guys on the spot, but I'm gonna give you a little pop quiz. So Kelly, what is Barbara's love language?
Her love language is, besides I love you, babe. That's her love language to me, babe. That means she wants me to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Babe.
Acts of service.
Yes. Babe, can you? Yeah. Like, okay. And my love language to her is, okay. I'll do it. But then when I ask her to do something and she'd be like, no, I'll be like, remember?
Okay, I love it. I love it.
Language to me. That's my love language.
Oh my God.
So Tashala, I know you're a proponent of love languages. You want to speak a little bit about the process of learning your own and how you communicate that to your partner?
Take the test. That at the most basic level, if you are not familiar and you don't know what it is, take the test. Because I didn't know and I wasn't familiar, so I took the test. And in taking the test, I realized that what really touches me and what I need, and I like attention. I'm not a gift person. I don't need a lot of gifts, of course, unless the gift is a book. But you know that because you know me, so that would be something that would come through conversation. But I do like touch. And you got to be present in order to touch me. Hello, somebody. But it was a process because I didn't know my love language when I first met my husband. I was in my 20s, and I was taking risk after not taking no risk. So I've always been a good listener, and he was a talker. So like the first date, he told me his whole life story, and I was like, oh, well, let me show you what love is, because it wasn't in his story how I was familiar with how love should be. And so I began to show him love through my acts of service and through touch and communication. And I never really learned his love language, but I learned him. And in learning him, I learned how to communicate and soothe him, because he would get angry a lot. He was a young Black man in his 20s, and he was feisty. He was a whole Leo, and he was ready to give everybody the business. Like, I'm talking roll around with empty 40 bottles in the trunk at the light, talking about, look at me funny and watch me go get it. And I'm like, baby, can we go get McDonald's? But you take the time and you learn each other. And sometimes learning each other, I think Enzima had put something in the comments that said you unlearn and relearn. So another thing that I realized when we first got together is that I had a lot of bad baggage from parents and grandparents. I knew it when I saw it, but I did not know how to correct it. I just knew that's not quite it. So I had to unlearn a lot of bad perception of love and relationships and how you communicate with each other. And I was very focused on making sure Barbara had the cup about love, but I was very focused on making sure that there were pictures of love and couples in my house. Like, I wanted, because my grandmother always had African art around the house when I was young. So African art made me have love for Africa. It nurtured that in me. It planted that seed. And so when I was with my husband, I wanted to make sure that I had Black art all around that showed love to nurture us. And that's kind of why I'm like, I don't like social media. Yeah, I'm going back to that. Because it's, if you are not strong, and a lot of people are not strong because we are learning and we're growing, right? So when you have people in their 20s and in their 30s coming to an understanding of the shit that was wrong that they learned and overcoming their trauma, and you put them in the throes of social media where deception is at the forefront. So people are fronting and it's superficial. So you don't know if you're seeing the truth, but you still feel compelled to compare your life to it. And now you have doubt and you're second guessing and you're looking at yourself differently and your self-esteem is lower. And you don't want to do the silhouette pose because you have issues with how you see your body, but the challenge is all over the place, and you don't have a good camera phone, so you can't take nice pictures of yourself, so you can't do the magazine cat challenge, but everybody is doing these challenges and you can't keep up. That has a negative impact on self-esteem. And negative impacts on self-esteem negatively impact your relationships. And once those are impacted, it just becomes this Alice in Wonderland hole that you fall in, and you hope it gives you some knowledge to pull yourself out. Otherwise, you stumble until you're so broken that you don't have no choice but to get up. So we have to be careful how we navigate through it. We have to be careful how we preserve our love. And I think that's something that we haven't said, but there's a preservation that takes place once you find and have honor for love. You want to preserve it because now you're experiencing it and you're receiving it and you have value for it now. Yeah. So when you start to value it, you preserve it however you see possible. And I think that, it's hard to preserve it if you're on social media with all this damn temptation. So sometimes you got to take a break and pull away from it just to preserve your love.
I love that. You've touched on a couple of things that I definitely want to talk about later, but I want to stay on the topic of love languages for right now. But thank you so much for adding that extra very important layer to this, because once you feel like you've come into being a more loving person and able to give love and accept it in a very organic and pure way, you definitely want to figure out how you maintain that. So we certainly are going to touch upon that. I'd be interested to hear other people's perspectives on love languages, how they discovered it, what their love language is, and how you go about communicating that to your partner.
I'll go. So as far as love languages go, I did want to say that it can change. I mean, I've been with my husband for 20 years, and I know I definitely start out with acts of service as my love language, because I was a giver, and it was fix him a meal, or offer to wash his clothes, or take him shopping. Not that I had to do those things, but because I wanted to, but that was just me. Over the years, in all my years of really growing and learning myself and understanding who I am as a person, I had to realize that I was giving away a little too much acts of service, and that included to my husband as well. I've since then moved more towards quality time. That means a lot to me, the time we spend together. Physical touch, we are very, very, very hands-on. I'll say that. And words of affirmation means a lot more to me now. That surety that, my I ams is, I've got you and we've got each other, if that makes any sense. But, just want to put it out there that it can change. So it doesn't define who you are, like, for the rest of your life. It can change as you grow into the person that you're becoming. So.
Yes, very, very good point. Very good point. Love is an evolution, and certainly our needs and who we are changes over time. So I think that is a beautiful point that you just touched upon. For everyone who's watching either on Facebook Live or YouTube, please, if you know your love language, if you've taken the love language test, please drop your love language in the comments, or love languages if you have more than one. I consider myself as someone who tries to now embrace all 5 of the love languages. I think acts of service comes more naturally for me, and I feel like a lot of women, it just comes more naturally. That is the way that I receive, and my default in how I give love. And the one that is interesting, the one that I am least comfortable with is words of affirmation. And that is the one that's most prominent in the men that I date. Kind of going back to, I think, what maybe Tashala was saying, and I don't want to generalize all Black men, but I think Black men, many of the Black men who I have encountered, often don't hear enough affirming things throughout their younger years and adulthood. And so it was very interesting that most of the men that I was dating, that was the love language that was most needed, and that was the one I was least comfortable with, because I for whatever, that was probably a need in my life too, and I just have kind of learned to reject it as something that's important. But I am actually, my oldest son, that is certainly his love language, and I didn't realize how important that is, especially now that he's 16, like, to hear those words of affirmation. And so I'm learning and trying to teach myself to give affirmation to my friends and platonic relationships, and to family members, and people that I date, and even myself, like, doing affirmations, because it's the one that I'm least comfortable with. But I think that we often do need to challenge ourselves to learn all of the love languages, because it just, if you know all of them and you embrace all of them, you're just able to love more and love people where they are, and it doesn't seem like something you're, oh, they like affirmation, I'm not comfortable with that, so I'm not going to deal with them. Like, you've missed an opportunity to forge what could be a beautiful relationship with someone just because you weren't willing to do something that's uncomfortable for you. So definitely, everyone, I recommend another book is The 5 Love Languages, to take the test. Sit down with your partner, yourself, your family members even, to learn more about them and how they receive love. Because it's not just about what your love language is. You definitely want to learn people that you are in relation with, because again, love is about what we're giving to someone else, not just for the perspective of I. So if anyone else wants to share anything on that, I would love to hear it.
I'll share. So I was going to say that that for myself, I think I'm with Hillary. It does evolve. It does change. For me, I avoided touches, and I'm going to be, I mean, I've shared this before. I was molested at a super young age. And so for me, touches was associated with that experience. Mm-hmm. And so I had to learn how to accept touches in a relationship. It was a very hard process for me to go through, to accept and appreciate it. You know what I mean? And actually and own that, you know, own the difference between the touch that I experienced as a child, as far as trauma and trigger, and how it was showing up and manifesting itself with love. You know what I mean? Like, being able to separate the two was super hard. And it took me a very, very, very long time to unpack that. And so now it's one of my favorites, you know, but it took me a super long time to go through the process of getting there. And yeah, that's time and touches is, like, I think where I'm at.
Yeah.
Okay, this must be a serious Aries thing, right? Because I know, I mean, clearly I tell people, you know, my teenage years, I was molested as a teenager from 11 to 18. I still see this person to this very day. And let me tell you, that's one of the hardest things. Like, people see me and they're like, oh my God, she's so in touch with her sexuality. It took years to get here. The person you see today, it took years to literally shed all of that weight of what he did to me. So you can see the person that's positive, that understands what healthy love looks like, what healthy self-love looks like, what healthy intimacy looks like in a loving relationship. It's not an overnight process. So, you know, for those of you guys that are out there that you know you've had personal trauma in your life, because it is trauma, deal with it. Because until you heal from it, you're not going to be able to give anyone the best of who you really are. So, my God, girl, we sisters, right?
I should.
Damn. Back to you, Tiana.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for sharing that. Monique, the Santiagos, anybody else want to share love languages, or we can jump on to the next topic?
Yeah, we have. I need to take the test. You know, our love languages. Basically, I know when he needs a little affection, he'll just come, babe, could you rub my back? Or he'll just put his head on my chest while we're watching TV. Or I'm like Monique. I'm a Scorpion, and I was very sexual. Anywhere, anytime, any place, on the highway, in the woods, you name it, anywhere. And as I've gotten older, he's tamed me down a little bit. Like, when I met Hillary, like, talking to her, I used to tell her all the time, I lost my mojo. I don't know where it went. He tamed me down for some reason, because I was the wild child and he's more conservative. I was more spontaneous, so he calmed me down, and I think I lost my mojo. But it wasn't not even that. As I'm getting older, you know, to me now, more love to me more like is more spending time together and just, you know, going for a nice ride and talking in the car, and, you know, we can watch TV and just spend, you know, quality time together. sipping, painting, or just talking. I mean, I do miss those days. I really do. But things have happened to my body. I'm dealing with health issues right now where we really can't be as intimate as we want. So it's taking a lot of patience on the both of us. I'm frustrated. You can ask him. I get frustrated. I'm the type that get angry if I don't have sex. And I think that has to do with my traumas being molested as a child, because I was introduced to a lot of sex growing up. So my love language growing up was like, I felt that I had to give him everything when it came to sex. And even with my husband, like in the beginning, he didn't understand me because I wanted it every single day. And he was like, babe, could we just go to sleep sometimes? Like, it was like every single day I needed it. I just needed it. It was like an addiction for me. But
wait a second.
I realized
there is a guy out there that says no. Wait a second, Ruben, you said no?
Yeah, he was like, babe, could we just cuddle? I'm like, cuddle? You know, I don't want to cuddle. Like, I was the aggressive one. But yeah, we've calmed down. I've calmed down now that I'm getting older. Now it's more, I just want to be more intimate, but emotionally and mentally. I want that mental stimulation, that emotional stimulation too. That love language. He knows when I need some, and I know when he needs it. We'll just give each other a look, or I'll just tell him straight up, babe, go in the room and take your pants off. I'll be in there in 5 minutes. Like that's how it is. So he'll be like, okay, like so that's how it happened.
Mio, I'm gonna say that you and Ruben, your one word is balance. It seems like you found balance between each other, and I love that, because that's huge. That's something a lot of people never figure out in their relationship. It's balance. So
yeah, that's the thing. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Ruben, don't be telling her no.
I'm tired.
I used to get mad too. I used to leave and everything. I used to jump in the car and bounce.
She getting up at 6 in, fresh out the shower, ripping the covers back. I'm like, what you doing? Sleep.
I can't. He never had a Scorpio, I guess. I don't know.
This is funny. I think
Scorpio.
Scorpios are wild. Look, y'all some wild people, boy. Y'all got us Aries beat.
I want to say something.
Right, Hal? I thought we had it down pat.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to say something. I remember when I first got clean, right? That's all I wanted to do was have sex. That was, and in recovery, they taught me, like, when you first get here, the first parts to wake up is down there. So that's why I wanted to have sex like so much, like every day. Like that was like my love. That was my way of saying I love you, and I need to be with you. So I was having sex all the time, you know, and getting caught, being in places, doing things we weren't supposed to be doing, you know. So, you know, when I was listening to everybody talk, I was like, yeah. And another thing I wanted to say was that until I learned some of my love languages, I was giving them away so freely to everyone. You know, I grew up in an affectionate home. My mom and more so my mom, she was very, very affectionate. And I learned that was like one of my top love languages is affection. And I was giving it away so many times. Like I didn't have any boundaries on who I was touching or how I was touching someone. And not everything in a sexual way, but just merely touching. And I had to learn after a while, everybody don't like to be touched. I had to learn that. I had to create my boundaries with myself. I had to restrain because I thought that this is what I was supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to show affection because that's what I grew up on. But I had to learn that no, you can't run around touching people because everybody don't want to be touched. So I had to learn, and there was a restraint within myself. Like I had to hold myself back, you know, because some days it probably, you know, got out of control, you know. So yeah, I just want to point that out about myself.
No,
Can
I appreciate you.
Can I also say something in regards to what Barbara just said? Love is about consent as well. And that is something that I knew, but as of late, everything keeps leading me back to this one word, consent. A lot of us are taking and we're not asking before permission to have that, to have that permission from that person to, to touch them, to feel them, to love them. And that's something that we should be doing. So, and I don't know, maybe it's because of things that's happened in my past that I'm really focusing now on making sure that when I give, I'm giving myself 100%, but with my consent. So,
to just add to the back end of that, I think it's also something we should be instilling in our kids. The fact that they have rights to consent or not to consent to be touched or to, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You know, so they're people too.
Oh yeah, body autonomy is something that is huge in my household. My ex-husband is Haitian, and when you greet, Haitian elders, you greet them with a kiss, and it's just a sign of respect. And I had to, talk to my ex when we were together, like, you have to ask the children if they are comfortable kissing their grandmother or their aunt or whomever, because like while they can show respect in other ways, you have to respect their body and their ability to say, no, I don't want to be touched like that. And to your point, Althea, it is something that you do have to start early, because that is how, unfortunately, people can take advantage of young people saying, oh, well, you don't respect me if you're not allowing me to touch you, or you're not allowing me to kiss you here, so it is something that you really, really, for any parent, anybody who is a caregiver, guardian of a youngster, something that is very, very important. It's their body. Even when I'm, giving my daughter a bath and she's 3, I say, is it okay if mommy, washes you here? Is it okay? I want her to say, yeah, that's fine, mom. I don't want her to ever think that I have the right to just do whatever I want to her just because I'm her mom. So it's super duper important. A little bit, as a sidebar, but it is part of showing, teaching self-love. That is a part of teaching self-love, because for myself, I used to think that, it is our role as women to just give up our bodies to our partners, with whether we want to or not. And that resulted in me having some very, very negative perceptions about myself and about my body and my role as a woman. So I think if body autonomy was taught to me at a younger age, I definitely wouldn't have had to come to that knowledge on my own. So anybody who's rearing young kids, that's probably like, if you don't teach your kids anything else, body autonomy, please teach them that, because it will definitely serve them well in their life. So, yeah. So 2 topics that kind of came up as we are approaching the end, and I hope that we're able to talk a little bit about this before we wrap up tonight. This has been a really, really great discussion so far. We've unpacked so many different things. We could have done a whole show on just like one of the things. The topics of unworthiness came up, as well as healing. And so I wanted to first talk a little bit about healing and how it relates to love and relationships. So I used to be of the mindset that you need to heal completely before you enter into a relationship. And recently, I think it's, I don't want to say her name wrong, but it's a young woman who's great on that I follow on social media. Brownie Factory. I don't want to say her name wrong right now, but I'm not remembering, because I've had my second glass of wine, and if you know me, I'm a one-hit wonder, like one and done. So 2 got me a little loose. So I apologize. I can't remember her name right now. But basically, she was saying that healing can't exist in a vacuum. When you are healing in the context of love and trying to come to a place where you can trust again, you really do have to practice that at some point. Like, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to be completely healed on my own, and then I'm going to jump into a relationship. I don't think that's realistic. And so I am my perspective and my opinions about healing within the context of love are really changing, and realizing that I don't have to have it altogether. No one ever does. I just have to be able to get to a point where I am willing to trust myself enough to know that I'm going to make good decisions and to trust what I see, whether or not that's good or bad. And so I would love to hear folks' perspectives about how that process of healing has enabled them to love again. If you feel you need to be completely healed before you could take that step of re-entering into a relationship, or if you had trust your partner enough to help you in that process of healing. And I know I asked these compound questions. I'm an attorney, so we're like famous for like the ask and answer and the multiple questions. But I would love to hear anyone's perspective on that.
I know.
Well, I definitely.
I'm a jump in.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Tina.
Well, as you know, I'm a widow, and my husband passed away about 3 years ago. And that was a process because I still wanted love, even though I still longed and still miss him. It's just those shoes can't be filled. Them size 14s is something different. And I met someone who reminded me of my love languages and reminded me of the things that stirred my heart, the things that inspired me, and kind of woke that up inside of me through his appreciation of me as a Black woman. Not just any woman, but as a Black woman. And so that was like adrenaline shots. Every time he spoke, every time he shared art, he would share books, he would share writing inspiration, like anything that he knew connected to me, anything that was yellow or bright, anything that he knew I liked. I remember one time he said that he has to bring me down out the clouds sometimes because I'm such a dreamer. And it wasn't malicious, but it was just like, girl, you be Disney flying up there all the time. I need you to come back. Let's embrace some of this reality, because your wings ain't flapping right now. You got to do this work first. And I had such an appreciation for that, because it wasn't like he allowed me to just fall off the deep end, but he allowed me enough space to fly and then bring me right back in so that I could deal with whatever I needed to deal with. And that was so important and so necessary. So I'm grateful for his ability to speak to my heart in such a way.
That's beautiful.
Anybody else want to share about Kyra? I don't know if you have any thoughts upon the notion of whether you should heal first before you re-enter into love, or whether healing actually requires love. I guess that may be a better, more concise way for me to ask the question.
It honestly just depends on the person and the situation. Sometimes you need to heal before you jump into that next love, and you can also use that next love to help you heal and grow into that love itself. I would say, like, one of my last relationships, I felt fine. I was going through stuff, but I did feel fine. And the person that I was with was helping me find myself and love myself in the way that they saw me. And our relationship grew and we bonded even more so with that love.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Christina on the chat says healing is a must before entering into a relationship. So for her, she believes you must heal. And I agree. I believe you need to definitely acknowledge that healing has to take place. Because sometimes, again, going back to something we talked about earlier, using proxies for love, sometimes you are using another relationship as, a distraction from doing the work that you need to do. So I definitely agree that you need to start that process and acknowledge that some healing needs to take place so that you're not repeating those same patterns. But at the same time, I feel like you shouldn't be so hard on yourself and think that you're not deserving of love in your broken space, because I think that is where love can be transformative and love can be healing. Like Anna says, Anna Gella Holloway says, I believe in the healing power of love. And I am starting to really, really recognize and appreciate that much more. And it speaks to what Tashala was saying, like, love is the antidote for a lot of the things that we go through. So we're about 10 minutes away from our time. So I don't know if our hostesses want us to wrap it up with one more question, and then I can throw it back to you guys before I say my kind of last words. How would you like me to do this?
I think if you what I would love to see happen is of course one more question, and then of course if we could do a round table based on just kind of like in terms of this this whole experience about love, like what are our takeaways, and then also
that was gonna be my last thing.
We can ask the people in the chat like what are their takeaways too. I'd love to hear
that was going to be my last question. So I guess I have just one more question before I get to that last question. Is kind of on this concept of worthiness, and it kind of goes hand in hand with healing, because I think sometimes, again, when we have been whether abused or misused, we sometimes can get this negative perception of ourselves that we are not worthy. Barbara spoke about this earlier with some of the things that she's been through, and feeling like you're not worthy of love. And so all of you present as confident women and men, people who are very much knowing who they are, able to give love in a very healthy way. But I know that that's not always a given, that takes time. You shared some of your stories today. And so I guess I would just ask, what would be your advice to someone who may be feeling that they're not worthy of love? And I would love for everybody to touch on this, who feels like they're not worthy of love. What would be your advice to them, and how they can get to a space where they recognize their worthiness? And I'll start with Monique and go down and up, then back around up.
Okay. So I say everybody is worthy of at least experiencing love. Essentially our first love is our mother and our father. And love comes from nature and nurture. So because of that, and also comes from our creator, the Almighty High. So because of that, because we were created and we're wonderfully and beautifully made, that alone is love. So it all starts with, you're loving yourself. And when you love yourself, that's when like, okay, I have all this love inside of myself. I can't contain it. So I have to be able to, give that to somebody else, and to know like, okay, well, then there's somebody else who's in that same position that can give back the love to you. And we're all worthy of it. It's just seeing it, knowing it, loving it, processing it, and just going through that. So that's what I gotta say in regards to that.
Beautiful, Monique. Thank you. Santiago's, what about you? What would be your advice for someone who is feeling unworthy of love?
I'm gonna speak for myself. There were times when I felt unworthy of love, and for those individuals who feel unworthy of love, just look deep within yourself. And if you look deep within yourself and you allow yourself to love yourself, you'll know what true love is. Receiving love from other people is a beautiful thing. But when you take the time to nurture yourself, and get to know who you are, and you become whole in who you are, and you get to love yourself first, then you'll be able to go out and experience love and be able to receive it. You know, you have to learn to love, get to know who you are, and get to love yourself, and get to love every single thing about you, every flaw, everything, every mistake, every decision. Forgive yourself. You know, just learn to love who you are first before you try to go to receive love from someone else, because that someone else probably is coming broken or doesn't know how to love you the right way anyway. So learn how to make sure you know how to receive it, and know how to receive it from yourself first. That's my advice.
So I'll piggyback off my wife. Definitely love yourself first. That's actually a really hard hard to answer, because a lot of people, I'm just going to use myself. You know, I was raised in a lot of foster homes. My foster mother really never showed me love, but I knew she loved me. You know, I had one of them old school mothers, like, you knew she loved me, but she never told me. So to get older and to have somebody love me, sometimes it's unrecognizable. I mean, it's foreign to me because it was never around. You know, and I've been in 15 foster homes, so you know, I never really grew up with it. So to get older to experience it, you know, that's kind of like really. I don't want to go back around and recircle the question, but yeah, just start to love yourself first, and then you'll definitely be worthy of someone else loving you.
Thank you. Tashala.
I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of what my sis Monique said. Hey Monique, how you doing? I believe for me, because I am a believer, God is love. And if God is love and God rests on the inside of me, I too am love. And if we go based on what Barbara mentioned, which is the love chapter in Corinthians, you have a breakdown understanding of that agape, unconditional love. That's the love that my grandparents showed me, like unconditional. You might be wrong and I'll correct you, but it does not change the magnitude of love that I feel for you. And I think when we start to understand the never-ending magnitude of love that is available, we understand that if it's available, we can experience it, and if we can have it. That means that if what I'm receiving doesn't look like that unconditional agape love that God has, then it's not for me. And I need to let that go so that I can find the love that he describes. And everyone has love out there. There is a lover for everyone to love you and speak to you in the very way that you need to be spoken to. All you have to do is know what that way is. And that's where, even in the comments, people are saying, you know, you have to find yourself and who you are and what your love language is, so you can then express that to a partner and hopefully get that reciprocated back to you.
No, I love that. Love is limitless, right? There's an endless supply of it out there because, like you said, it does come from the creator. And so this idea that it's somehow lacking or fleeting or unattainable, I think that's one of the first places that it starts, you know, shifting that narrative. Because if you recognize that there is no limit on it, that it's available to you, like you said, I think that's very beautifully put. So I appreciate that. So we have 3 minutes. So I know we're going to cut off the live. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit to just the takeaway, because I want everybody to give the ability. So we got 3 minutes, really 2 now. So what is your key takeaway today? And if folks who have joined us in the chat can please put your takeaway. I'm just going to say a very quick thank you again to everyone who joined, because I probably won't get another opportunity to speak to you all. Thank you so much for joining us. This was an incredible conversation as we enter into Valentine's Day. Remember, love is available to all of us. We are love. And I hope that you will continue to embrace and embody and give the beauty that is love. It is truly the only thing that can transform our society. So very quickly, folks, key takeaways. I'll start with Kyra, then go to Althea, Monique, Santiago, Tishala, Barbara, and then end it off with Hillary.
One of the key takeaways is basically learning your love language and being accepting of love, understanding your worth. Like a lot of the ladies had said, you're worthy of love. Those are the biggest things that I've taken away from today's discussion.
Thank you. Althea.
For me, it was basically, across the board, like love is timeless. Love has purpose. And there's an intent to functional love. Let me just say that functional love has purpose. And of course, that I love that strike back. Thank you, Tishala.
Yeah, that was good.
I love
Monique
sharing that. Yeah, that was like, yes, I had to write that one down. Like I was on the notes. So thank you. That was useful for me.
My takeaway is that from everybody that's on the panel is that love comes in different shapes, sizes, colors, and it comes in the way that you need it. You can't compare yourself to others and what phase of love that they are in. So.
Thank you. Santiago's, we got 20 seconds. Santiago's, you gonna say something? We got 15 seconds.
No. You ain't gonna. My takeaway is to appreciate the love that's in front of you.
Excellent. Tishala.
Choose love. Take that leap and embrace it.
I love it. Barbara.
Our love is our rightful place within ourselves. Love is our rightful place.
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And Hillary.
Okay, so I could say it real quick, I guess. But in my experience, love is me. Love is unapologetic. But the one thing I didn't hear any of us say tonight was love. I know you said love is limitless, but love is freedom. Love is not possessive. It doesn't hold you in place. And once you know it, you are so limitless as to what you can experience if you see it in a form of, once you give it, it will come back to you. But you got to know yourself in order to give it. So love yourself, guys. Love is freedom.
And so again, thank you, everyone. Please follow Project Resiliency Movement, follow Honeybee Relationship Corner, stay in touch with these wonderful ladies and everybody on this panel about all the amazing things they're doing in their field, in their community, and all the powerful, powerful messages today about love. So thank you again for having me as a moderator, and thank you to all our guests.
Thank you.
Live. This was beautiful, and happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day. Thank you, Tiana.
Hopefully you guys can get cut off, but Tiana, you have an event coming up tomorrow. So if anyone's looking for a virtual speed date, I posted on my page. You guys can sign up.
It was yesterday's event, but definitely keep an eye out. We'll be having more virtual speed dating.
That's right. Today's Friday.
I know.
Awesome.
Thank you guys. This was amazing.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Mom.
Bye.
Love you guys.
Bye,
Love you.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was.
Yeah, so I'm just waiting for her to turn off the live broadcast.
Right. Yeah, I can still see that we are live.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night.